In the dim hush of a candlelit room centuries ago, a lone thinker bent over rough parchment and sketched a vision that defied his world. A machine with spinning blades designed to lift a man skyward like a bird conquering the heavens. Beside it, he outlined a canopy that could slow a desperate fall from towering heights, an armored beast of war that rolled on wheels, and contraptions allowing humans to explore the silent depths of rivers and seas. These were not the scribbles of a madman. They were precise, studied drawings born from a mind that saw tomorrow while the rest of Europe still lived firmly in yesterday. This was Leonardo da Vinci, a painter by trade, a visionary by nature, and his story is one of the most astonishing chapters in human history. Picture the rugged hills of Tuscany in 1452. Spring had just touched the valleys when a baby boy drew his first breath in the modest village of Vinci, not far from the bustling pulse of Florence. His father, Ser Piero, held respectable status as a notary, drafting contracts and legal papers for the wealthy. His mother, Caterina, came from simpler roots, a young woman whose life followed the rhythms of the land. Because his parents were not married, Leonardo entered the world marked by the harsh label of illegitimacy. In that rigid society, it meant exclusion from many paths others took for granted. No easy inheritance of his father's profession, no straightforward access to higher learning, and a constant reminder that certain doors were bolted shut from the moment he arrived. Yet nature itself became his first and greatest teacher. Surrounded by rolling green slopes, winding streams, and ancient olive trees, young Leonardo developed an insatiable curiosity that set him apart. He would spend hours watching water tumble over rocks, tracing how currents carved their paths and created swirling patterns. He observed birds soaring on invisible winds, tilting their wings with perfect instinct, and wondered at the hidden mechanics that made flight possible. Light dancing across leaves, the subtle shift in a flower's petals as the sun moved, the intricate veins in an insect's wing, nothing escaped his gaze. While other children played and soon forgot their fleeting questions, Leonardo carried his like precious gems. He sketched what he saw, scribbled notes in the margins of his young mind, and began a lifelong habit of probing deeper than anyone around him. As he approached his teenage years, his father recognized the boy's extraordinary talent with lines and observation. Florence, the beating heart of the Renaissance, beckoned. This was an era of rebirth, where classical knowledge fused with bold experimentation. Artists, thinkers, and merchants transformed the city into a vibrant laboratory of ideas. Leonardo entered the workshop of the renowned master Andrea del Verrocchio as an apprentice. There, he didn't merely grind pigments or clean brushes. He immersed himself in every craft available, sculpting clay and marble, experimenting with metals, studying geometry, and grasping the principles of architecture and engineering. The workshop hummed with creative energy, a place where boundaries between disciplines melted away. Leonardo absorbed knowledge like a sponge. His hands moved with growing confidence. His eyes caught nuances others overlooked, the way fabric draped and caught shadows, how muscles flexed beneath skin, the delicate play of emotion across a human face. A pivotal moment came when Verrocchio entrusted him with painting an angel in a larger religious scene depicting the baptism of Christ. The result was breathtaking, an ethereal figure radiating inner life, with soft, luminous features and an expression of profound serenity. The master, upon seeing it, reportedly stepped back in awe, recognizing that his pupil had eclipsed him. Whether the legend holds every detail or not, Leonardo's emerging genius was undeniable. He wasn't content to copy beauty. He sought to understand its very foundations: light, form, anatomy, and the invisible forces shaping the visible world. By his early 30s, Leonardo sought greater opportunities. He traveled to Milan and presented himself to Duke Ludovico Sforza, the ambitious ruler of the city. In a detailed letter, he highlighted his wide-ranging abilities, designing sturdy bridges for armies on the move, conceiving defensive fortifications, creating innovative weapons, and planning grand architectural projects. Almost as an aside, he mentioned his skill with a brush. The Duke, struck by this polymath's confidence, brought him into his court. For nearly 2 decades, Milan provided fertile ground for Leonardo's ambitions. He organized elaborate court festivities with mechanical wonders, advised on urban planning, and poured his energy into scientific inquiries. It was here that he created one of his most iconic works, a massive mural on the wall of a monastery dining hall. The Last Supper captured the dramatic instant when Jesus revealed that betrayal lurked among his closest followers. Rather than stiff, symbolic figures common in religious art of the time, Leonardo portrayed real men in turmoil. Faces etched with surprise, grief, anger, and denial. Hands clutched at chests or gestured in protest. Bodies leaned and recoiled as if the words had physical force. The composition pulsed with tension and psychological depth, drawing visitors from far and wide who stood mesmerized by its realism. Yet even as this masterpiece took shape, Leonardo's mind raced elsewhere. He conducted careful dissections of the human body, documenting muscles, bones, and organs in drawings of astonishing accuracy. These studies went far beyond artistic needs. They reflected a hunger to unlock the mysteries of life itself. His notebooks swelled with thousands of pages, written in his characteristic mirrored script, perhaps for comfort as a left-hander or to guard his ideas. He explored everything from optics and hydraulics to flight and geology. And woven throughout were his inventions: an aerial screw with rotating blades, conceptual wings for human flight, a self-propelled cart, early designs for concentrated solar power, and armored vehicles that anticipated modern tanks. Materials and technology of the era couldn't bring most of them to life, but the concepts were meticulously detailed, waiting for future generations to catch up. Centuries later, when engineers tested reconstructions, many proved not only feasible but brilliantly effective. Success, however, came intertwined with profound challenges. Leonardo was a perfectionist plagued by restlessness. He began grand projects only to set them aside when fresh ideas demanded attention. A colossal bronze statue of a horse for the Duke, intended to be the largest of its kind, was delayed by political turmoil and ultimately repurposed for warfare. In Florence, he started an enormous battle scene using experimental techniques, but it deteriorated before completion. Patrons grew impatient with his pace. Whispers followed him, brilliant but scattered, full of promise yet difficult to pin down. The very breadth of his interests, which fueled his genius, also scattered his focus across too many frontiers for one lifetime. Around 1503, he accepted a commission for a portrait of Lisa del Giocondo, wife of a Florentine merchant. What began as a standard work evolved into an obsession. He refined it over years, experimenting with subtle blending of tones to create soft transitions between light and shadow. The result was a portrait alive with enigma, a gentle yet knowing smile, eyes that seem to follow the viewer, a landscape background that fades into atmospheric mystery. He carried the panel with him for the rest of his life, unwilling to declare it finished. Today, known as the Mona Lisa, it stands as perhaps the most famous painting ever created, housed in the Louvre and drawing endless crowds who ponder its secrets. As the years accumulated, Leonardo faced the shifting tides of fortune. He moved between Florence, Milan, and Rome, seeking patrons who could fully support his expansive vision. In Rome, younger artists like Michelangelo and Raphael commanded attention with monumental frescoes. Leonardo, now in his 60s with flowing white hair and beard, felt the weight of time and the ache of unrealized dreams. Health issues emerged, and the relentless drive that defined him met the limits of mortal strength. Would his flood of ideas vanish into obscurity, known only to a few? A turning point arrived in 1516. King Francis I of France, a passionate admirer of the arts and sciences, extended an invitation. He offered Leonardo a comfortable residence at the manor of Claus-Luz, financial security, and, most valuably, the freedom to pursue his thoughts without constant pressure. The king valued his conversation as much as his creations, often crossing a private passage to discuss philosophy, mechanics, and the wonders of nature. In this supportive environment, Leonardo continued drawing, reflecting, and mentoring. His final years unfolded in relative tranquility, surrounded by notebooks filled with ongoing explorations. On May 2, 1519, at the age of 67, Leonardo da Vinci passed away in Amboise. Tradition holds that the French king was present, cradling the head of the man he regarded as unparalleled in knowledge and creativity. Leonardo left behind a rich but fragmented legacy, completed paintings that transformed artistic technique, anatomical studies that advanced medical understanding for generations, and notebooks brimming with insights that bridged art and science in unprecedented ways. His influence ripples across time. The Mona Lisa continues to captivate, its expression a mirror reflecting each viewer's curiosity. Reconstructions of his inventions have flown, floated, and rolled, proving the soundness of concepts drawn half a millennium earlier. Artists learned from his mastery of emotion and light. Scientists found inspiration in his methodical observation of nature. He embodied the Renaissance ideal of the universal mind, a person who saw no rigid divide between disciplines, only interconnected truths waiting to be uncovered. Born without the advantages of legitimacy or formal university training, Leonardo carved his path through sheer force of wonder. He turned personal obstacles into motivation, societal constraints into reasons to look inward and upward. In an age of superstition and limited tools, he trusted empirical study and creative imagination. His life challenges us to question our own boundaries. How often do we accept limitations without testing them? What inventions, artworks, or discoveries lie dormant in our own restless thoughts? Leonardo da Vinci was not defined by what he finished, but by the relentless spirit with which he pursued understanding. He showed that curiosity is a superpower accessible to anyone willing to observe deeply and dream boldly. In our fast-paced world of specialization, his example feels more relevant than ever. We may not all possess his level of talent, but we can all choose to look closer, ask better questions, and refuse to let fear or convention cage our potential. What aspect of his extraordinary journey resonates most with you? The futuristic inventions that reshaped later technology, the artistic masterpieces that still stir emotions across cultures, or the quiet determination of a man who overcame early disadvantages to leave an indelible mark on civilization. His story invites us to carry forward that same flame of inquiry. Look at the world around you with fresh eyes. Challenge the impossible. Fill your own metaphorical notebooks with observations and ideas. Because, as Leonardo demonstrated across his remarkable life, the greatest adventures begin not with certainty, but with wonder. The hills of Vinci may be quiet today, but the echo of his questions rings on.